Hello, thanks for watching. Elise makes a bunch of videos. Today's story time video is another Highlands of Scotland themed video. I hope you enjoyed my last few nature themed story times. I'm sort of moving on now to like people themed and places. Today I'm going to talk about my hike up Ben Nevis, which is the highest mountain in the UK. I was living in Fort William, which is basically right at the base of the mountain, more or less. And there's a whole range of them, really, in the Nevis Valley and all sorts of hikes around. But that's like the famous one everyone wants to do because it's the highest. So whatever. Anyways, when I was living there, I almost accidentally climbed it, I think 3 different times. So right before the last sort of summit bit, which is a little like bobble on the top, about 40 minutes or so to get up, depending on how fast you go. Right before that, there's a big lake where a lot of people like to stop. And I got to that 3 times by accident, just like sort of hiking around. It's not a huge hike, it's a day hike. And when I did it, I had hiking boots, but it was May, so there was still like winter snow at the top, at the summit. And I also found that people who hike in the UK tend to think of it as a really like difficult, technical like sport, whereas I think in Canada, especially on the west coast, hiking is just like advanced walking, like it's not a big deal. But hi chickens. But yeah, in the UK they get like really into it. They'll have like walking sticks, crampons, all this like specialized equipment. Sorry about the wind. And they just take it really seriously, and it's a super manly sport, I think, too. Whereas definitely hiking in the West Coast is more just like, I don't know, girls go hiking by themselves, and it's a lot more difficult because the mountains are bigger and there's bears and stuff, and like, so I just think it's really funny, just the whole culture around hiking in the UK, how it's super like rough and manly, even though it's easier than hiking in Canada. Anyways, that's a pre-story to my story, which does come into play. So when I decided to actually summit Ben Nevis, I walked to the bottom from where I was staying, which was an extra 40 minutes or so. So I added extra challenge on top of that, mainly because I didn't have a car. Shush. Anyways, and yeah, so I got to that Lake Point summit, kind of had a little 5-minute break, then I did the summit. It was still snowy, that was fine. I got to the top and I was the only girl there. I was like, oh. A little bit weird, isn't it? Because there was probably like 20 people or so. And that was fine. I stayed up, I took some photos and enjoyed the view and checked out the little old ranger hut or whatever it is that's up there. It was all cool. The clouds rolling in and out and all that stuff. The same sort of weird weather and temporary weather patterns that is typical of Scotland, especially in the Highlands. Then I was like, all right, it's time for me to go. Also, I was running out of water. Should have brought more water. That's my main thing. But I was in regular hiking boots and it was like snowy. It wasn't really a big deal because it was not like super deep snow or anything, but especially on the trail where it had been patted down by everyone walking on it, it was quite icy. So on my way down, I was just going on the border of the trail where there was some rock sticking out because there was more grip there. And then as I was coming down, there was a party of 4, I'm going to say elderly gentlemen who were probably at least in their 50s, if not 60s, all fully equipped with like crampons and walking sticks and the really expensive jackets and backpacks and all the like gear, which is like fine, cool. And they were all sort of spaced out, like 100, 150 meters apart, but they're obviously together. English gentlemen, I may mention. And so the first one stops and is like, oh, maybe you should be on the trail because it's more safe. And I was like, well, no, because the trail is all icy and I don't have any crampons. I just have regular hiking boots. So there's more grip on the side. That's why I'm on the side. And he was kind of like, oh, okay. Like, do you need help with anything? Are you all right? Like, super like trying to be nice, but also mansplaining. And I was kind of like, whatever. Okay, cool. I don't need your help. And he's like, oh, okay. Like really concerned. And I was like, oh, okay. Bye. Anyways, so he went by. And then his friend came next. Because now my whole like momentum was all messed up because I stopped to talk to this guy for 10 minutes about nothing at altitude. So, like, really not a good time to be stopping and talking for no reason. Not to mention there's like 7 hours, or not 7 hours, but like 4 hours to get down because it's like 9 hours round trip. Not to mention, like, from the bottom, I still have to walk an extra hour. Anyways, so that's cool. So then his other friend is there. And just as he's leaving, the other friend is coming and is like, oh, hi. And it has the same series of questions. Just like, oh, shouldn't you be on the trail instead of like on the side of the trail? And I was like, well, no, because I don't have crampons. The trail is icy. I don't want to fall down. And I'm fine. Cool. Thanks for your concern. And you're just like, oh, are you sure? Do you need help? Do you need me to like help you? And I was like, what are you going to do? Are you going to carry me for 4 hours? No. Like, what is this? You're really wasting my time. And it's cold. And the more that I'm standing here in my like sweat, not moving, I'm not only wasting time and being more at danger by being at altitude for no reason for now like 20 minutes because I talked to him for 10 minutes, now I'm talking to you for 10 minutes, and I'm really getting cold because like I'm not moving, I'm just talking to you like mansplaining idiots for no reason. Yeah, so then finally he's like, oh, okay, I guess you're right, and like sort of walks away the way he was going. And I was like, ugh. By this point I'm like kind of annoyed by like them wasting my time, and also because I was cold and my muscles were starting to get like really cold and it was becoming more difficult to do things because it's like, it's fucking cold, it's at the top of a mountain, why do you keep stopping me? Anyways, I've obviously made it to the top, so I'm all right, thank you. Anyways, this continues to happen for the next guy, the third guy, and the fourth guy, all with the same series of questions, with the same if not like escalating, condescending, mansplaining manner, possibly because I was getting more annoyed and not wanting to talk to them, and so they were getting more like, you should like assure me that you're okay because it's my job to make sure that you're okay because, you know, you're like a female and you're hiking, and that's a bit dangerous. You know? And I was like, no, I don't. I probably have done more hiking than you, even though I'm like a half your age. So maybe you should just like get your little sexist undertones and just go away now and like stop talking to me for no reason. Anyway, so I spent probably somewhere around like half an hour having to explain away to these 4 fools that I was fine and I don't need help, thank you, even though what would you do, really, what would you do if I did need help? Like, I just need to get down to the bottom of the mountain, and you stopping me from doing that is the opposite of helping. Anyways, end of the story is that they finally all went off, and at this point I was so cold and so like annoyed, and then just as like the last 3 were still within view, I was like, ugh. So I start going again, And I start veering onto the trail a little bit because I kept looking back and making sure that I was on the trail, even though I explained why I wasn't on the trail. And then, of course, I slipped and fell on my ass. And I was so annoyed because it was like, not only did I listen to your horrible advice to go onto the ice part of the trail for no reason, but also you've wasted my time. And now also me being annoyed about you wasting my time has caused me to like not focus on what I'm doing properly and fall down. So thank you for causing my ass pain for no reason and wasting a bunch of my time. And like kind of ruining what could have been a pretty good hike because the conditions were fine. Like there was no issues. I don't know what their deal was. I know a lot of tourists that are inexperienced do this hike, and so they think that it's their job, that God sent them to like help these poor young women, but it's never women. It's always inexperienced men that get injured on this stupid hike. Anyways, I made it down fine. There was no issue. I knew there wouldn't be. Like, that's why I was so annoyed by their mansplaining. But yeah, then when I got to the bottom, I got back to my hostel and I was talking to these two German girls who were quite fit and definitely have done hiking in Germany. And I was saying, oh, I just did Ben Nevis. And they're like, oh, really? Did you just do it in your hiking boots? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, oh, because we were going and we saw this guy who was coming down and was like, oh, you two can't continue in those shoes. Like, you need proper snowshoes or something, like snow, whatever, boots to go to the top. So you should just turn around. And they were pretty youngish, like maybe early 20s. And obviously weren't like confident enough in the fact that like this is a weird attitude that people in the UK have towards females and hiking, which I sort of already knew because of previous encounters, which is why it also annoyed me because it wasn't the first time I had something like this happen. And then they were like, yeah, so we just like turned around. I'm like, oh my God. So you did like 4/5 of the hike and then got nearly to the top and then like turned around? And they're like, yeah. I was like, weird. Somehow I think that the same dude probably saw male versions of the exact same thing with probably even worse shoes, because some of them didn't even have hiking boots. Some of them just had like running shoes that were at the top and obviously weren't avid hikers. But they didn't get turned around. Isn't that interesting? Anyways, that's my story for today. It's gone on a bit long, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I will have more coming up in the future. Not as much as I originally planned, because I've got work now. Yay! But check the description of this video if you want to see the playlist with all my story times, and I'll have some new ones coming out as well as like the ones that I've made in the last few years, so enjoy those. Like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already, I guess. But yeah, that's the story. Mansplaining. Stupid mansplaining. So annoying. Anyways, take care, y'all. Peace.